seated. Please join with me in a spirit of prayer. Loving God, may your radiant light and love shine upon us, within us, and through us this day. Illuminate our hearts and minds, and strengthen us to be willing and bright beacons who shine your love and light into this world. Amen. Today, we conclude our Epiphany sermon series in which we have been remembering and exploring together who we are as God's beloved children and who we are called to be as people of faith and followers of Jesus. Today is Transfiguration Sunday, and it marks the end of this Epiphany season. The season of Lent begins on Wednesday. And this gospel story that we heard today provides us with a turning point, both in the church calendar as we move through it together each year, and as well as in the unfolding story of Jesus' life and ministry. Jesus takes Peter, John, and James on a hike up a mountain to pray. And as he is praying, his face changes and his clothes dazzle. In fact, some biblical translations describe his clothing as glowing as bright as a flash of lightning. I like that translation. Two of the greats then show up, Moses and Elijah, those beloved superstar Hebrew prophets whose stories helped shape both the Jewish tradition and the identity of the Jewish people. Peter, who's a little tired, can't blame him, they just hiked up a mountain, wants to pitch some tents for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah and hang out for a while. But just as he makes that suggestion that they stay, suddenly the mountains cloud over and a divine voice proclaims, "This is my son, my chosen, listen to him." Dramatic. This proclamation ought to sound familiar to us, of course. It echoes the divine voice that spoke at Jesus' baptism. In a way, we've come full circle in this Epiphany season. The Transfiguration can be seen as a sort of a second baptismal moment, a reaffirmation and rearticulation of who Jesus is and of the call to the disciples, all disciples, past and present, to listen and to follow. Now, it seems pretty clear by the way this plays out in the story that Peter's suggestion that they stay up there on the mountain is soundly rejected by God. And for those who first heard this Transfiguration story, and those who knew well the stories of Moses and Elijah, this probably wouldn't have come as any surprise. Mountaintop moments don't last forever. There's work to be done back down the hill. God met Moses up on the mountain several times. Moses' face shone with divine light too. In fact, he was walking around with a veil on for a while. Don't know if you remember that part of the story. And I'm sure Moses had his moments where he wanted to stay up on that mountain. He definitely had his moments where he wanted out of this prophet gig altogether. But instead, Moses had to go back down the hill, and Moses had to deal with his people's complaints, their discouragement, and that golden calf. I'm sure you remember that part of the story. Moses had to find a way to lead and to help his people live into this new covenantal relationship with their God. He had to help them figure out how to forge a new way forward together, even when it was difficult, even when they and he were frustrated. Elijah also met God on that same mountain, having fled for his life from those who wanted to kill him. Elijah also wanted out of this prophet gig. No doubt Elijah would have preferred to stay away if he had had the choice. But his prophetic work wasn't finished either, and he was called back down the mountain too. Mountaintop moments don't last forever. There's work to be done back down the hill. Now, nevertheless, I understand and empathize with Peter's desire to stay up there on that mountain. He's experiencing one of those mystical moments when God's presence is palpable, when the worries and difficulties of this world fade to the background. Who wouldn't want to stay there and linger in that moment, linger in the glory? But like Moses and Elijah before them, Jesus, Peter, John, and James were also all called to return. Jesus' prophetic work wasn't yet complete, and neither was the disciples. They had to go back down into the community to continue their ministry. They would soon have to face towards Jerusalem and confront their biggest challenges and their biggest fears to date. And eventually, Peter, James, John, and the other disciples would have to carry forward the ministry that Jesus started after he was gone. Mountaintop moments don't last forever. There's work to be done where? Back down the hill. One of the things for us to ponder then is how we take the memory and meaning of those mountaintop moments with us back down the hill. How do we let them help inspire and strengthen our work as we honor our calling to shine brightly and to reflect God's love into the world? How do we hold on to those clear and palpable, yet sometimes fleeting experiences of God's love, God's grace, God's presence in all times, and especially in more trying circumstances when we encounter them? How do we remember that no matter what challenges we face, we're actually already charged up with the light and love of God? How do we shine even when it's difficult, even when it's scary, even when, like Moses, we're a little frustrated? You know, I can't help but think of the song, of course. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. We sing that every year at VBS. It's an earworm all week long. You know that part that goes, hide it under a bushel? No, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, it dawns on me that sometimes we need to help each other remove our bushel baskets. We need to encourage each other, stand with each other, help each other out along the way as we discover our various ways of shining forth God's light and of sharing God's love in the world. Sometimes we might just need a little encouragement to get out of our own way and to trust that we have something to contribute, that we have light to shine. Maybe we need some encouragement to be a little braver and a little bolder, or to spend some time considering what we have to contribute. But other times, we're not the ones who are hiding under a bushel basket. Sometimes there are circumstances that feel like someone else is running around after us, trying to put a bushel basket over us. That's hard to say. Trying to extinguish our light, or at least dim our light. I think we've probably all been there before at some point or another. Sometimes illness can feel like that. Grief can feel like that. Conflict, distress can feel like that. Unjust and unfair treatment can feel like that. It's not always easy to shine despite our willingness, despite the light we carry. You know, Jesus knew that too. And so when we just don't feel all that shiny, we also need to tread gently with ourselves and with one another. We might need to find ways to get our spiritual batteries recharged. And I think we can help each other with that too. Maybe we can help run interference against the bushel basket brigade. Maybe we can show up for one another and shine together so that one person doesn't have to carry all that light by themselves. One person doesn't have to do it all by themselves. One little light can brighten things up for another. And a lot of little lights, boy, that can make a big difference. I think this is a great metaphor for what church can be at its best. We're here to shine, people, together with the light that we've been given by our loving God. Shine with one another, shine for one another, shine for the world in the world. Close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to think of Christmas Eve. Remember how the light from one candle, that Christ candle, spreads around the room, growing, glowing, brighter and brighter. Every face in this place gets all bright and shiny, and it wouldn't be as pretty, and it wouldn't be the same without each individual light. This community, this world, needs your light. Now open your eyes. Take a look at the little lights next to you for a moment. If you're feeling so inspired, tell them that the world needs their light. The world needs your light. The world needs your light. Each and every one of you, this world needs your light. Today, after worship, we vote on our open and affirming statement. This is an opportunity for us as a congregation to shine our light into our community even more brightly. It's an opportunity to make it abundantly clear to everyone, including those who are already a part of this community of faith and those who have yet to walk through our doors, that we as a congregation affirm and love all of our LGBTQ+ siblings. No strings attached. No ifs, ands, or buts. That we mean it and we own it when we say whoever you are and wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. You know, there are several members of the LGBTQ+ community of various ages and stages who have expressed to me that they have experienced genuine affirmation and connection here at our church. Some for whom this is a new and different experience of church. Some who didn't know that churches like ours even existed. Some who have experienced rejection elsewhere. This matters deeply. It matters to members of the community. It matters to their friends and families. It matters to those of us who are committed to being allies to the best of our ability. People need to know that there's light here that's shining. People need to know that there are safe and open and affirming communities of faith where each and every one of their beautiful lights is welcome. People need to know this now as much as ever. And we should celebrate that people have found affirmation and love here. That is a beautiful thing. I think we should own this as a community and help people who are looking for a church like ours find us, trust us, and get to know us, and give us a chance to get to know them. This is one more opportunity for us to commit to continue to walk together as a church in love and be willing to continue to grow as we go. Not everything we have done in the past is perfect. Not everything we will do in the future will be perfect. But part of being a church is being willing to work together, being willing to learn together and from one another, to care for and support one another, and grow together in God's deep and abiding love and light together. This is a journey we take together. That should be clear by now. Jesus and his disciples experienced a glorious glimpse of God's light and love that day on the mountain. And they would need to hold on to that light as they made their way back down the hill and into the world, and into the complexities and challenges of life that they would behold and experience, and eventually into Jerusalem. I believe that the light and love of God they experienced in their lives gave them courage when they needed it, grace when they needed it, hope when they needed it. I hope God's glorious light and love gives each of us, each of you, courage, grace, and hope when you need it too. So keep shining brightly, my friends. You have a lot of light and love to give, and the world needs your light and love. And when everyone can shine, we all shine more brightly as a result. Amen.